Today, we are completely dismantling that exhausting hustle mindset. We're diving into Chapter 4 of the Leverage Code, which has this brilliant title, Systems Over Willpower. We're going to look at exactly how to treat your business like a machine that just runs on autopilot. Because look, if you've ever felt like your daily output totally depends on your mood, or maybe how much coffee you've had, or just if you happen to feel inspired on a random Tuesday, you are definitely not alone. I mean, it's exhausting, right? So today, we're shifting away from raw effort. We're focusing on engineered mechanics to get you your time and, honestly, your sanity back.
Here is our roadmap for how we're going to systematically break this all down. We're covering 1. The motivation trap. 2. The core system loop. 3. 5 system qualities. 4. Design for your worst day. And 5 system killers.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the motivation trap. I want you to ask yourself a really honest question right now. Is motivation your business partner? Because trying to build a business on inspiration alone is, well, it's basically building a house on sand. It is the absolute least reliable resource you have. Think about how motivation actually plays out in real life. You buy a new book, or you watch this super inspiring keynote, or maybe you hit a low point that just scares you into taking massive action, right? It spikes, but then it inevitably fades every single time. Imagine a talented consultant who only goes out and prospects for new clients when she feels super creative. The second she gets tired, her pipeline just dries up completely. If your revenue and your marketing rely on you feeling fired up all the time, you're literally gambling with your livelihood. Motivation is a feeling, guys. It's not a strategy.
You can really see the stark contrast here. Motivation demands that you feel a certain way. It's totally tied to your biology, your emotional state, and it spikes and fades on a biological schedule. But a documented system? It completely removes the need for willpower. Systems solve this whole problem by just removing the requirement that you have to feel like it to get the work done. A properly built system runs exactly the same way no matter how you feel. It doesn't ask if you slept well last night. It doesn't care if you're out of coffee. It just reliably executes the steps right in front of it.
Moving right along to Section 2, the core system loop.
So, pulling this blueprint straight from the leverage code, we can see the exact architecture that separates a really chaotic hustle from a smooth, scalable operation. It looks elegantly simple on the surface, doesn't it? But this specific framework is exactly what allows massive companies to run predictably, while solo operators are out there just constantly burning themselves out. A true system doesn't care about good days or bad days. It just follows this continuous, unbreakable loop.
Let's walk through this sequence step by step, because literally every working system on Earth follows this path. First, you've got your input. That's the raw material that triggers the work, say an email from a potential client. That feeds directly into your process, which is your exact documented checklist of steps to respond and get a call on the calendar, which then generates your output like a successfully booked consultation. But step 4, that's where the magic is, the feedback loop. This is the only thing separating a system that actually improves over time from one that quietly falls apart. If a prospect asks a confusing question on that call, your feedback loop means you go back, tweak your initial email template, and clarify it for the next person. If you aren't feeding your results back into the beginning to improve your input, you don't actually have a system. You just have a static routine that's going to break the second the world changes around it.
That brings us to Section 3, 5 system qualities.
So what actually makes a system a system? A healthy one has to hit all 5 of these criteria. If it doesn't, it's going to die the second you look away. First up, it must be documented. Look, if it's only in your head, it has zero leverage. That is just a memory. Second, repeatable. The exact same input has to produce the exact same output every time, no matter who's running it. Third is delegatable, and this is a massive one. If you can't hand it off, even to software or an assistant, it's still just a task, and you've basically just given yourself another chore. Fourth, measurable. You need one clear metric that tells you at a glance, is this healthy or failing? And fifth, improvable. Like we just talked about, it has to be built with that feedback loop from day one, not just bolted on later when things catch on fire. Now for Section 4, design for your worst day.
Let that quote really sink in for a second. Engineering for your worst day completely flips how we view systems. It shifts them from being this neat little shortcut for lazy people into a mandatory safety net because, frankly, human beings are incredibly inconsistent. We do this thing where we build ambitious workflows for the ideal version of ourselves. You know, the version that wakes up at 5 a.m., hits the gym, drinks a kale smoothie, and is never, ever distracted. But let's be real, that person does not show up every day. You have to engineer your systems for the realistic, tired, easily distracted version of yourself.
So here is the ultimate stress test for absolutely anything you build. For every single step, ask yourself, would I realistically do this on my worst day? Like when I'm exhausted, fighting off a cold, totally behind schedule, and just feeling critically low on self-belief. If your answer is no, you have got to automate that step, simplify it, or completely scrap it. Because a system that only survives on your best days is fragile by design. On your best day, sure, almost any chaotic workflow will technically get the job done. But the real test of a business engine is what happens when absolutely everything goes wrong. That is when your systems actually need to carry you.
And finally, Section 5, System Killers.
Building the engine is only half the battle, right? We have to keep it safe from our own internal meddling. It is so ridiculously easy to accidentally sabotage your own progress if you aren't watching out for these specific pitfalls outlined in the text.
You absolutely want to avoid these 4 system killers. First, skipping documentation. Sure, keeping it in your head works once or twice, but you're gonna forget a step and end up rebuilding the whole thing from scratch a month later. Just write it down. Second, over-engineering before launch. Oh man, we have all been guilty of this. Do not spend 3 weeks designing the perfect, most complex system that never actually sees the light of day. A basic system running at 70% in reality heavily beats a flawless plan living safely in your head. Third, having no feedback loop. That just leaves you flying blind. You won't know if your tweaks are actually helping or hurting. And finally, judging too early. Don't tear everything down after 3 tries just because it wasn't flawless. You've got to give a system at least 30 days of real-world data before you can truly judge if it's working.
I want to leave you with one final provocative thought today. If your motivation completely hits 0 tomorrow morning, will your business still run? Because eventually, no matter how passionate you are, that day is going to come. Are you going to keep stubbornly trusting your willpower, or are you ready to actually start building reliable systems? It's time to stop letting your biological schedule dictate your output and start engineering your leverage. Thanks so much for exploring this framework with me today, and I really hope this changes how you approach your very next task.